Nick Dimassis and Driti Nair to speak on early childhood development, including 2 important initiatives that are happening in Beloit. All of us at the Civics Academy believe that early childhood development is the most important issue in our community today. We know about the poor performance of our local school district, and we must recognize that early childhood development, especially ages 0 to 3, play an important part in setting children up to be successful in school and throughout their lifetimes. I'm going to kind of keep us moving here and briefly introduce our terrific speakers today. We're going to get started with Jessica Austin. She's the Director of Early Brain Development at the Stateline Community Foundation. She's going to be talking to you about the basics and her efforts to educate our community on early childhood learning. Then I'm going to hand it over to Nick Dimassis, and he's going to share some exciting updates about the Discovery PLAYce, which is a new space coming to the library in June 2026, focused again on early childhood development. And then finally, we have Driti Nair, who is a Beloit College student manager at Bellmark Associates. She's been working to develop an evaluation plan for Discovery PLAYce. Again, thank you all for joining us. I just have 2 last remarks, and then I'll hand it over to Jessica. We want to, of course, thank our sponsors for today's presentation and the lunches. So those 3 are the Beloit Public Library Foundation, the Stateline Community Foundation, and Amy Mitchell tells me it's Peeper Power. So thank you for making this lunch possible. And then I know that you're going to be inspired by these speakers and have lots and lots of questions. We're going to try to keep our time such that we have time at the end to hear those. So please jot those down, and then we'll come around with the mic and get those after our 3 speakers. Thank you.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Turn that one on.
It is on. Do you want me to just stand back here? No.
You need one more.
Okay, it can exist. All right. Hello. Oh, there is a lot of feedback. How about I stand? Oh, I can. Yeah.
We tried the mics, but we didn't try the mics. We didn't try them. There we go.
Okay. We pivot. All right. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Thank you so much for being here today. I am Jessica Austin, Director of Early Brain Development for the Literacy for Life program, a program of the Stateline Community Foundation. So this conversation is about early learning, but it's also about our community's future. I want to start with a short clip from someone who's had a big influence on the work for me, Quint Studer. Quint is a nationally recognized community builder, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He's helped transform communities by investing in education, health, and quality of life. Quint also happens to be the seeding funder who made it possible for me to do the work that I am doing in the early learning space across Rock County.
My name is Quint Studer. Nick, Jessica, thank you for this opportunity. I live in Pensacola, Florida, but of course we have quite a few investments now in the Rock County area. Probably our biggest investment, people might think about the Bodacious shops, or they might think about the Sky Cart. I think our most important investment is the investment in children through the Stateline Community Foundation, where we gave $500,000 to them to really work on building a brain. So let me walk through why this is so important. And again, we're different in Rock County versus Escambia County. I first got involved in this in Florida when we did a dashboard, and we're very fortunate because Jeb Bush, when he was governor, put in standardized kindergarten readiness. So we know by school district, by school, what child's kindergarten readiness is. And we saw kindergarten readiness was quite low, and I was curious, did that impact their grade reading and fourth grade math? Well, what it came up is, yes, it does. So that led us to the University of Chicago. Dana Susskind, who wrote a book called 30 Million Words, and it really talked about the brain. The child is born, the brain is rather smooth. They hear words, they get neurons, it creates the divots, and those divots create the neuron, hits the neuron, hits the neuron, and 80 to 85% of the brain is developed by age 3. Now the challenge, of course, is how do you get to these mothers and these children? Because though we spend a lot of money and a lot of time trying to make up for learning deficits and achievement in K through 12 or VPK through 12, which is important to catch kids up. But wouldn't it be even better to prevent it so we didn't have to catch kids up, or certainly as many children? So the way to build a brain, build a life, build a community got started is we met with Dana Susskind, we brought her down to Pensacola, and we were talking, and she was saying that in Chicago, their goal is to get to every mom and show them a video on how to build the brain. It's a short video, 4 to 5 minutes long, and I've seen it, and it really helps people understand the power they have to build their baby's brain when 80 to 85% is built by age 3. With that, I just said, wouldn't it be cool if the hospitals all did it? So we're very fortunate here in Pensacola. We have 3 hospitals. We have about 5,000 births per year. And when a mother is in the hospital after having a baby, some do prenatal care, they watch a video. And we've also peer-reviewed research with the University of Chicago to show that we have an impact. So if you can, it's been challenging at times in certain cities, but if you can, the key thing is to get the nurse to sit with the mom and do a tutorial on how to build a baby's brain. Then when they leave with resources, a number of resources, and then what we want to do, what you're saying, is you build learning into the entire environment. Most playgrounds are built for physical activity. They're not built for building a brain. And of course, Nick in the library and the Discovery system there is really focused on how do we do that. And that means not only when people come to the library, but also taking the library out to the community. So that's what Jessica has also done such a good job, is creating ways for wherever you go. We want when a mom or dad or grandma or grandpa are with a small child, they all of a sudden it clicks to them. They need to work on building the brain, which is really engaging in conversation with the child. Sadly, it's getting worse. It's getting worse because of the cell phone. Children are now hearing less words, not more words. So I think it's really vital, and it's vital for a community. Now, it's just a good thing to do. You know, I started out as a special ed teacher in Rock County, Wisconsin. Of course, we want to maximize everyone's human potential. So there's just the value. Even if you said, well, it doesn't impact the potential workforce, but it does, we should still do this. There's just certain things to do because it's the right thing to do. We also know that it's the right thing to do for the community. This is your workforce. These are the people that you're going to be hiring. These are the people that could be raising your children. John A. List, who actually spoke at the Beloit College a couple of years ago, is the most downloaded economist in the world from the University of Chicago, wrote the foreword to my book, Building a Vibrant Community. And what he says in there is, if you want to know the future of a community, look at kindergarten readiness. And it's one of those numbers that we haven't paid a lot of attention to. Now, public education gets sometimes a lot of hits. But in reality, if a child's not ready for kindergarten, we're putting a big weight on these public school teachers who work so hard in order to catch those children up. Again, I don't know the kindergarten readiness in Rock County. I haven't seen the measurement. I just know across the country it's usually pretty low, depending, of course, on what tool that you use. So I think it's exciting. We're excited now to donate money for the library's PLAYce, PLA, capital PLAY, small CE. We just gave a small donation to the library we're excited about, but we're even more excited about your work, your commitment, and truly making something different. So let me close with this. When I first got into this, there were some questions on, well, but these are all these single mothers, or this is just a poverty issue or a race issue, and so on. And I remember a story by Dana Susskind. So Dr. Dana Susskind, a cochlear implant surgeon at the University of Chicago, basically talked about, and I've learned this story, when I met her, she's a widow. She now remarried after some years. She's a widow with 3 children, and her husband was also a physician at Culver Children's Hospital. And you can go online and hit Dana Suskin's husband, and you'll see news reports out of Chicago. They were walking along Lake Michigan, and 2 children were struggling in the water. Dana's husband immediately jumped into the water to save those 2 children, which he did. He saved those 2 children. They're alive today because of what he did. But in saving those 2 children, he drowned himself. When he came up out of the water, of course, Dana was doing everything she can to save her husband's life, and she couldn't. When they were interviewing her, somebody asked the question, why did he jump in when those weren't his children? And Dana said, because he saw every child as his child. Isn't that what this is all about? Seeing every child as our children? So thank you very much for making a difference. And don't underestimate the difference that you're making. This is Quint Studer.
So that belief that early learning isn't just good for kids, but good for everyone, it drives the work that I get to do every day. How many of you think of early learning as an economic development driver? By the end of lunch, I hope you'll see those 2 things are inseparable. I was born and raised in Beloit. This community is my home. I've seen some of its struggles and its resilience firsthand. My journey started in the classroom where I spent years as an infant toddler teacher, supporting children and families through those crucial first few years. Later worked for 4C, our local community resource and referral agency, helping build program quality for licensed group and family child cares around 11 counties in southern Wisconsin. Then opened my own group child care program in Beloit, licensed for 72 children that ran for 7 years. I later took on a second job at WICA, Wisconsin Early Childhood Association, as a program coordinator, supporting substitute educators around parts of the state of Wisconsin. For the last 2.5 years, I've been with the Stateline Community Foundation, helping lead early learning initiatives across all of Rock County. I share this because what we're talking about today isn't just theory, it's lived experience. This quote here from Dr. John List, an economist at the University of Chicago, captures the heart of today's message. He studies what makes communities succeed. His findings show that kindergarten readiness is a mirror. When children are thriving, so is the community. Think of these as 3 gears that must turn together. Early learning is high-quality experiences for children birth to age 5. Family engagement, helping parents be their child's first and best teacher. Community investments, businesses, schools, and leaders aligning resources and priorities. If any of these gears stop, the others slow. But when they move together, the whole community benefits. Schools improve, workforce pipelines strengthen, and families are supported. By age 3, 80% of a child's brain is already formed. That means the early years are a crucial window. Every second, a baby's brain forms over 1 million new neural connections. Connections built through experiences. The brain develops from bottom up, like building a house. The foundation, those first few years, is what everything rests on. When children experience consistent love, language, and learning, those connections become stronger. But if experiences are limited, inconsistent, or stressful, those connections weaken or never form. That's why early experiences aren't just nice, they're necessary. They determine how ready a child will be to learn, adapt, and thrive later in life. Serve and return is the science of human connection. Every time a child serves by babbling, pointing, or smiling, and an adult returns with a response, the brain strengthens. These engages build language, trust, and emotional regulation. It's like tennis, you cannot play alone. By kindergarten, most of the brain's architecture is already in place. Teachers are building on what families and caregivers have already laid down. That's why our community's investment in the earliest years matters so much for our school system's success. In Rock County, we often see that many children begin school already facing learning gaps. Wisconsin does not have a comprehensive statewide kindergarten readiness assessment, similar to what Quint was talking about in Florida. which makes it challenging to pinpoint the exact causes of early learning gaps in our community. However, observations and insights from educators and community partners suggest that disparities in access to early learning opportunities, books, and stable care, as well as the impacts of toxic stress, may contribute to these gaps. While we may not have the precise data or the root causes, our community experiences highlight areas where support and intervention can make a meaningful difference. We know that toxic stress caused by factors like instability, poverty, or trauma can disrupt healthy brain development. When families face consistent stress, they're often leaving less time for play, conversation, and exploration, the very things that help build strong brains. When early interactions are limited, those gaps widen over time. But there's tremendous hope in this work. Early supports and positive relationships can truly change trajectories. Every meaningful interaction, every moment of quality care helps strengthen that foundation for lifelong learning. Dr. James Heckman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, found that investments in early childhood yield the highest return, up to $16 for every dollar spent. That return comes through better economic outcomes, reduced need for special education and remediation, higher graduation rates and employment rates, lower crime, and healthcare costs. When we invest early, we spend less later. It's the most efficient, data-backed way to strengthen our local economy. Schools benefit, employers benefit, taxpayers benefit. So if you were an investor and someone offered you a 16-to-1 return, would you take it? That's the ROI of early learning. Now that we've explored what research and experience tells us about how young children learn and the importance of parental support and connection, let's look at how we are putting that experience and knowledge into action in our community. Through our Literacy for Life program, we focus on supporting community organizations by connecting them with resources that help families understand how children's brains grow in the first 5 years. We work behind the scenes to develop and coordinate materials, tools, and strategies that make the most sense for each partner to share within their local networks, helping align and strengthen early efforts across all of the community. We provide print materials, tools, and that organizations can use to create everyday learning moments, whether in a child care clinic or community program. We also share out bi-monthly newsletters to give organizations opportunities to engage more deeply in early learning. We host bi-monthly partner meetings open to the organizations and also community members who want to learn strategies to support children in our community. Our work is grounded in the BASICS framework, and our goal is full socio-ecological saturation throughout all of Rock County, meaning wherever caregivers and young children go, they encounter those small but powerful nudges that help them become their child's first and best teacher. The message is simple but powerful. Early learning is not just about reading, it's about relationships. Every conversation, every game, every moment of play is literacy in action. And that's the foundation we want every family to experience wherever they go in our community. The BASICS framework gives families a roadmap for what matters most: love, talk, engagement, play, and reading. Our BASICS Insights text message resource sends 2 texts per week, 1 fact, 1 activity, to help families turn science into daily practice. Families tell us it makes learning doable. When families see the 5 principal icons around the community, they pay attention. This is a learning moment. I need to pay attention to help my child. Currently, we have 1,126 families registered in Rock County through the BASICS Insights text resource. Through our BASICS partnerships, we have built connections with 30+ Rock County organizations who have chosen to weave the BASICS into practices to give family those reoccurring nudges throughout the community. We are working to saturate even deeper and even more intentional ways. So through our Literacy for Life, this is our background. We work to support local organizations to empower them to be the early learning connector. The data you're seeing represents Q3 of 2025 and comes directly from families in Rock County who are participating in Basics Insights. The graph shows results from families who have completed an initial survey when they first joined the program and then asked again 3 months later. The survey looked at simple everyday interactions, how often families hug or cuddle their child, play together on the floor, read or look at books, talk about numbers, or count objects. What's powerful about this data is the clear shift we see over those 3 months. In every question across all 5 principles, the number of families reporting that they seldom engage in these activities went down, while those reporting every day or multiple times a day went up. This tells us that small, consistent messages like those delivered through Basics Insights are making a measurable difference. Families are reading more, talking more, playing more, and connecting more. And those everyday moments are exactly what builds strong brains and the foundation for lifelong learning. Our Read, Talk, Play Every Day is our parent-caregiver facing mission. It's simple, easy to remember, serves as the connector for all of our early learning efforts. It brings together resources, strategies, and tools for families in one easy hub, readtalkplayeveryday.com. On the website, families can find local events, printable resources, and a blog that ties monthly learning themes into real-life experiences. It's designed to make early learning practical, accessible, and fun for every caregiver. Families can also use this as an easy way to sign up for Basics Insights. We partnered with the 3 birthing hospitals in Rock County to provide a toolkit just like this to families at birth. Each kit includes a bilingual board book, a caregiver poem book with early brain development tips and facts, a family booklet that aligns with our website and Basics principles, guiding parents in that early brain development journey from day 1. The toolkit that directly ties into everything we're building, from the website to the developmental milestones to the videos that we also have that put into practice the Read, Talk, Play Everyday model, and aligning all of that utilizing the Basics principles. The goal is simple: support families from the very start so that they can be confident, engaged, and empowered as their child's first and best teacher. Finally, I devote a significant portion of my time co-chairing the Thrive by 5 Rock County Coalition. What we're building is uplifting the 0 to 5 space in Rock County, breaking down silos and creating opportunities for service organizations to work together so that every young child can thrive by the age of 5. By bringing together organizations that serve children from birth to 5, we are reducing barriers and building a more coordinated system of support across the county. One major focus of our work right now is childcare, improving access, supporting educators, and elevating the profession. Childcare providers are far more than caregivers. They are brain builders. By investing in them, we are investing directly in the future of our children, our workforce, and the overall well-being of our community. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to turn it over to Nick to present on Discovery PLAYce.
Thanks, Jessica. We can never hear that information enough. It's been super important, and it has been building to this day the work that's been done for years before this as well. It's really heartening to see in this room when we talk about partnerships and that we have the president of the school district's board of education. We have some of the leadership team here. We have the CEO from the Lincoln Academy. This the executive director of Head Start. So it's more than just people interested over a noon hour. A lot of these very, very vital organizations that need to be here and be involved. And we often hear in some conversations about duplication of services. And it's not duplication of services that people are asking about. It's whether you are coordinating your services or not. So we can poke at an issue from many, many different angles, and that only has beneficial results to that. So all of these organizations working together is super, super important. Too many people to thank, so we'll say in terms of Discovery PLAYce, we'll say that for opening day, grand opening day when we have that, and I'll tell you all about that. So Discovery PLAYce, I'm going to move quickly. We're going to look at some of the things that we've been developing lately. We're still in the process of our design. What's kind of a little strange about how we've been doing this is we've been going on our capital campaign. At the same time we're building it. At the same time a grant fell out of the sky from the state, and now we're working on other things. So it can be a little confusing for people. You got your money, you didn't get your money, what are you building? You see the plastic and all that. So hopefully what we can do is kind of bring that all to some clarity here, but really the important thing is the Discovery PLAYce and what that is going to do. I also see the city manager, I see the superintendent. So this is fabulous. We see all kinds of people here to hear about this. So we're about 50% in our design. This is kind of we picked up as sort of our theme. We can make Beloit, and it makes us too in terms of the children. So children are learning how to be a part of the city as they're growing, but they know in turn that they themselves are going to be builders of the city as well. Jessica mentioned some of this. Also, Laura and Doriti will be talking about it, but just very briefly, we often focus on the children and what the goals are for the children. We're 0 to 6, birth to 6. Birth to 3, as Jessica said, is where really that hardwiring happens. So there's, of course, we want to explore and play, build confidence, use their imagination, get them school ready, learning ready. But just as important with Discovery PLAYce is the caregivers, the parents and caregivers that are coming here. We are not asking them to come here and turn their child loose and then come back in 10 minutes or I'll hunt you down. You know, what we're really asking is for them to engage with the child also through our programming, which is a really important part of this, is the caregiver and the parent is also learning many of the skills that the basics brings to the table. So supporting the learning, bonding through play. The child will grab the parent, pull them into play before the parent sits off to the side on there and pulls out their phone. There's important moments where you need to pull out your phone, just have a break from being a parent or caregiver, but we want to have those as limited as possible, that they're going to feel confident, and then again that their kids will be school ready, and they will build their own skills as an educator, whether here, whether at school, or whether at home in their own household. This is my favorite graphic. These are all the card holders in Beloit. So we have almost 31,000 residents have cards, library cards. That is a huge saturation of the city. And then we can also expand that, and you see now across the county. So our reach and those we touch is really, really broad and deep. So having a physical space like this is really important. We know people are going to come. So as we were working with Lucy Creative out of Chicago, as any good designer, and they start thinking big, and then they start breaking things down. And so we broke it down into zones. The whole theme is the city. Again, we build Beloit, Beloit builds us. It's really seeing yourself in your own community and wanting to remain here, wanting to be a part of it. So the pink over there are the entry and kind of the circulation in terms of people moving around. You see the stroller parking, you see the desk, and then down at the bottom, that is super important. Not only are there going to be 2 bathrooms added there, that's really important for birth to 6, right? But that is also the passageway into where all the collection is going to be. So we're moving it from the space it's in over to the other side, and that's going to be the passageway in there, the book quest. And it has to be just as exciting from them going from that area, all that area, into where the books are, so they're not dragged kicking and screaming, you're going to read, and into there, and they want to. So, and then we have the the green. Another really important that came out of our focus groups. We were at Todd Elementary, and we were talking, especially to young parents. And one of the things we heard is we want to talk to other young parents. We want to learn through them. Maybe my parents are back in another country, whatever it might be. We really want to be able to communicate. When did your kid get sick first? When did their teeth first start coming in, and making those connections? Where do you go for the information you need? So that toddler area, and I'll show you some more about that, is going to be, I think, really, really important. By the way, everything in Discovery PLAYce has a job to do. Discovery PLAYce has a job to do, and every station and everything we're putting in here has a job to do. Then the orange there, that's the city, and you'll see what we're doing in terms of reflecting the city there. The blue looks like water, that's the lagoon area, some kind of natural ecology and things happening there. And then up at the top in the yellow is the home. There are a lot of important skills, knowledge, information, habits that can be formed, or that need to be formed in the home. These are the different stations. I'm not going to go through these. You'll see more and more. This is also, of course, recorded. You can go back to it. The slide deck will be available and everything. But I want you to see also the scale. So this is taking over the whole children's area and all of the collection. We're doubling down by doubling the size of the children's area. So we're not going to scale back on the books for kids. It's just moving to another area. This is the entrance. As you look, walk in the front doors, to your right will be Discovery PLAYce. There's a cityscape, and again, I'm going to move quickly through these. The donor wall, we want to make sure everybody is recognized. This has been a lot of work, and there's still a lot of work to do. This is a color rendering. We only have a few of these right now, but again, as you walk in that front door and look to the right, what is it that you're seeing? Do you want it? Are you drawn in there? Or does it look like something that's kind of boring and it's just a classroom? I think this is really exciting. We have over to the right there, and you can see there's a mural that's going to be there. And what we anticipate this also, this is the kind of a look of the whole Discovery PLAYce, a look of their whole city, and we're hoping that this is going to turn into a picture book. Then eventually this would be the cover, and you take that home, you can check it out, and then you're learning how to do Discovery, use the Discovery PLAYce and navigate it. Stroller parking. I'm guessing that many of you, when you leave here, some of you will be gathered standing out at your cars talking. If not today, you do it at other times. Stroller parking is more than just a place to park the stroller. It's also a place where we think there's going to be a lot of communion happening there, people talking, relationships being built. This is in the hallway to the Discovery, or to the book area. So a book quest, how do you draw them in and they start to see their own quest, and that's all on a big wall. This is that toddler area. It's kind of a corral, nice corral, but for the adults to sit around, you can sort of let your kids play without paying attention to them while you're talking with someone else, knowing they're in this safe space as well. Some of the kind of interactives that will be included in there. These are ideas right now. This is cool. We have the pavilion. This is in the lagoon area. So the pavilion we have down at Riverside, how do we reflect that here? So at first we had one that looked like Harrymore Pavilion. And then we said, you know what, let's open up all the sides, or at least 3 of them. And then now they can do different kind of play. There's pegs in there. We can put on backdrops and things like that. So it doesn't have to be static. This is the paddle boat. So there's a paddle boat down in the lagoon, but then there's this windmill, because that's how Fairbanks Morse and some of the beginnings and some of the industry that happened here. Now, some of the parents here are saying, how are they not going to get their fingers in there and their head and in the pedal and everything else? We'll work that out. But that's a pretty clever use of that. This is the natural ecology area. Make sure that we get some of that, the environmental kinds of things in it, especially with all the developments happening, not just in Riverside, but down at the nature of the confluence. Importantly, the hospital, that's been mentioned. Quinn mentioned that, Jessica mentioned that. So we have the wellness, which is both mind and body. This is the first responders area. So we got fire truck. And again, these are conceptual, but it's starting to take shape as well. We'll put on a doctor's coat here. This is it's kind of interesting when we first started investigating this and going to some other children's museums and that kind of thing. Pizza restaurants were the thing. So we thought, all right, we're going to a pizza restaurant. And then it became a little more generic restaurant. And then we started thinking, well, what about a community kitchen? And then it can take on, rather than saying it's pizza, you could have it be pizza for 3 months, 6 months. It could be soul food for another 6 months. It could be, Mexican food, whatever you want. And we start to make sure that whatever cultures we have here, it can also evolve with the people that are here. And by the way, Carrie came in as a sponsor for that. These learning play stations are $100,000 each. And Carrie has taken this on as a sponsorship. Just real cool on that, also not the name restaurant, even pulled back from that and said, it's just a fork and a knife. Let the kids start to imagine what it is. Let them start making associations. A play table, these seem to be very popular. You climb under and then you're building on the table. Here's a color graphic of that. You can see the table there, the food lab or restaurant to the right, and then the house to the back. This is a nook with a cityscape, and this is where, thanks Hendricks Family Foundation has sponsored this area. That's how we have $1 million from them for their sponsorship. Obviously this area, the $1 million covers more than that. That is a real investment. You talk about ROI, that is a serious investment on their part in Discovery PLAYce overall. Farmers Market, still playing with some different things. We know the flowers are going to be there and the vegetables, but are there other things? A couple more stations for that. Yep, you see that. Construction, a foundry down to the right. Again, just that. Remember, they're birth to 6. So it's STEM, yes, but it's not fuses that they're creating, a battery and making things. It's simple, but it's very important kind of simple skills. School bus, someone's a driver, 2 passengers. Now we get to the house. And again, this, like everything else, it has a job to do. So you come to the house facade, but you got laundry, and they can watch the laundry being done, and a bathroom sink. Is it a set of teeth, giant teeth on the wall with a giant brush? These details are being worked out now in the design, but how do we build those habits that everybody needs? So again, there's the washer and dryer, sink. You turn an hourglass, maybe that's how long you're supposed to brush your teeth, and just kind of giving that kind of education. Crib for a bedroom, and then I think I can just hit.
Nope.
So I have to say another. Now, we're going to do a little 3D walkthrough. So we just got this recently, so it's like a new toy. So you see the overview. Obviously you're turning in. There it is. Wow, that's exciting. Then we're going to go look. There's the facade. So even if you walk into the library, you're still going to be seeing that. You can look through the windows. It's going to be kid height. There's going to be some books along there. So again, drawing everybody into that space. By the way, picture books are going to be peppered throughout this. There's the donor wall. That's also the hall, the door to the Blender Cafe. That's where the mural is going to be on that blank wall. We're seeing now the toddler area. There's the first responders on the right, the hospital, wellness on the left. And then all these things are going to be interactive. They have a really neat idea for that, how they're taking the fire truck around town. You can do dress up. Again, see how it's the caregiver, the child and the caregiver, it's interactive. Over here, a little wellness, you look in a mirror and maybe there's different faces and those other, and what's the face that you're feeling now, or however that might be. Toddler area, farmers market, coming up on that. That's the construction area and the foundry on the other side. Back of the farmers market. We'll also have a lot of financial literacy. Farmers market will have prices and things like that, and we'll be weaving financial literacy in there. There's the paddle boat. One of the conversations was a bank. A lot of places have banks, but then we talk to the banks and they say nobody banks like that anymore. So that's a challenge of how do you get that financial, is it an ATM machine that's just somewhere in here? So these are bellows. When they do the bellows, they're shimmering up on top. And you could do, and then maybe some other bellows will be a squirrel wagging its tail as you do to push the air through. So they're making the connection between an action and a reaction. There's the pavilion. You see those pegs up on top, and then so we can hang backdrops and do different kinds of plays. That's the foundry. lab, restaurant, community kitchen, whatever it is. Whatever we want it to be. We are really putting a lot into programming. So it's not just a you can self-navigate, it should be able to be that. But the programming is really gonna be that glue between the caregiver and the child, and also just the learning. And again, you can kind of see books along everywhere. I have little books, picture books. We wanna make the connection, but this area is really about the learning through play. So the back of the school bus, and then we're gonna head over into the house. And I'm sure many of you are thinking about, and I'm happy to get that information or ask questions at the end, but really suggestions. You know, what is it that happens in a house that really needs to be reinforced? What are the kind of habits and the skills? We're adding a kitchen, that's not on here right now, but we think right along there, on the back side of the house facade, like right in that little cubby, we'll add a kitchen. And now this is a yard, so it's either a backyard or it's a school or a playground, one of the parks in the city. It can be different things, but we want to make sure we got the physical activity in there as well. And then we're kind of wrapping up. There's the ambulance, and back to that toddler area. And then you can see through, that's where that's the hallway. On the left was the BookQuest wall, bathrooms, and then all the collection. So, you know, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And it's gonna have to be, because we know that this is gonna be extremely popular. And now the other piece to this, and Doriti and Laura are gonna come up and talk about this. We had Jessica laying the foundation of, this is why it's important. These are the things that are happening in birth to 3 in particular. Now, Discovery PLAYce is a 3D conduit for those kinds of activities and those kind of skills to be built. And what's really important about it being at the library is that it's free. It's free, and that is, and we know that children's museums and that are not in competition. So it's awesome that Janesville is being built, that we have Rockford, have had that for a while, and now here, because people look to an area. They don't just say, I want to go to that one. They start to look to an area. I went to the Discovery PLAYce last week. That was free, great. Now let's go to Janesville and pay to get in, and just those kinds of things. So they really build upon each other. But the fact that this is free in a city community that really needs to impact that early learning and that school readiness. So I will now turn it over to Laura or Doriti, because evaluation, when we talked about, it isn't just about raising the money. We also said donors and other leaders in this room came back and said, one, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to sustain it? How are you going to evaluate it? And in libraries, we don't do a lot of information gathering because we want to leave everybody alone. It should be a safe space where people can come and you're not being monitored. So they've been working really hard on that kind of balance between how can we gather the information to really do good evaluation, so that over the course of 5 years, in year 3, we can say this is showing progress and it's something that we should keep going. All right, now I really will turn it over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, she can.
Okay. Hello everybody, I'm Dhruti Nair and I'm a project manager with Beloit Associates. And today I'll be walking you through the Discovery PLAYce evaluation project, which is our work developing a framework to measure early childhood outcomes through play-based learning. The purpose of this presentation is to summarize our project and where we are so far. Beloit Associates is a student-run consulting firm which was founded in 1985 by 3 economics students under Jeff Adams. We focus on applied market research, partnering with local businesses, nonprofits, and civic organizations to generate actionable insights. Over the last 4 decades, our projects have spanned finance, education, healthcare, etc. Our evaluation is designed around 4 key developmental outcomes based on the CTC milestones and the basics frameworks, and we will assess these outcomes over a 5-year period. The first outcome is literacy development, which focuses on the early skills that support reading, such as sound play, letter recognition, vocabulary, and full sentence speech. The second outcome is executive function, which covers the cognitive and self-regulation skills that help children manage information, stay focused, solve problems, and plan ahead. The third outcome is caregiver confidence and engagement, which looks into how much caregivers talk, read, and play with children, and how confident they feel as their kid's first educator. The fourth outcome is enhanced school readiness, which assesses whether milestones in literacy, executive function, and early numeracy are being reached that prepare children for school. I also want to add, contrary to popular thought, this starts on the day of birth. So as soon as you're born, you start getting prepared for school. This is our data collection framework. We're using a mixed methods approach to capture both quantitative and qualitative data. We're using caregiver surveys administered through email and QR codes at the play stations to measure outcomes and engagement. We'll be using attendance tracking and book circulation data to track usage and repeat visits. We'll also be using observation logs to see how children and caregivers interact with each other as well as the environments or the play stations. And finally, we'll be conducting surveys with early childhood experts to gain professional insights and feedback. The slide shows the sample questions. So each play station has questions tailored to developmental outcomes. These questions align with the CTC milestones but are reworded to be parent-friendly. The goal with these questions is not just to assess the milestones but also to prompt caregivers through gentle nudges to interact with the children in certain ways. The first question, for example, shows what a caregiver of a 2-year-old might see for a question assessing literacy. And the question is, while at the farmer's market, has your child named or tried to say the names of fruits or vegetables? So far, we've conducted some pretty extensive background research trying to understand how early childhood development is measured in similar contexts. We've conducted site visits, we've talked to subject matter experts, and attended sessions with Lucy Creative, for example. We've also developed general and station-specific survey tools with insights from Jessica Austin, who spoke earlier today. We have reviewed digital survey platforms and finalized what we're going to work with. And at the moment, we're starting to work on the rollout of surveys to collect year 0 baseline data. This is the project timeline. We're in October 2025, and over the next few months, we hope to test and gather our baseline data before we launch in June of 2026. To pull it all together, our goal with this project is to come up with a data-driven evaluation system for early learning, which creates a seamless experience for families and staff. To gain measurable insights on 4 outcomes: early literacy, executive development, caregiver function, caregiver confidence and engagement, and enhanced school readiness. That's all I had. If you have any further questions, you can contact us. Yeah.
Got excited, it was over. Oh, this is back to you.
All right.
I don't know.
This is not a fundraising event, but I know that we're in the middle of a campaign, and what we've heard a lot is there's just confusion about whether or not we've reached our goal. You got 3.89 million from the state. Aren't you done? And all these kinds of things. So I just wanted to at a very high level. This is the goal. That's how much we've raised. You see the thermometer. We're at about 63%. That's pretty darn good. And we still have a ways to go. obviously 1.5 million. There's some other kind of catch things in there. In order, we have to hit a certain amount to unlock some of the money that we've gotten from our donors and those kinds of things. And that'll happen, that'll come. But that's what we have left to raise there. So these are 4 ways that I just thought I'd let you know. If this means a lot, sure give. But really, just as important is referring. I know somebody that might be interested in giving. That is just as important. You can tell me. You can tell Lisa Ingalls, where is she? She's the executive, way back there, the executive director of the foundation. Or Frank McKern. He's the co-chair of this whole capital campaign operation. So lots of ways, but we love references, volunteering if you're interested in that. It's going to take a lot of people being involved, and we think a lot of people are going to want to be involved. And then, if nothing else, just cheering us on, and being ambassadors and spreading the good word around is no less important. Our timeline real quick, you saw the design stuff. We're at 50% of the design, so there's still more work to be done, especially in the details. That should be done in this winter, and then the capital campaign should finish in the spring. We start installing mid-late summer, and then grand opening next fall. So it's still a little ways away. Again, we got the capital campaign, but it's all about the design of the building and getting those kinds of things done. So very exciting. You're going to.
Since this isn't a time for capital campaign, I'll also put a sidebar in the Stateline Community Foundation is also mid-capital campaign. So if you want to continue the work that we're also doing, we are also seeking funds to continue that support. Bill Flanagan here would be your guy for that, as he is on our committee, and also incoming board member, a returning incoming board member. So everything we have shared here today feeds back into these 3 gears: early learning, family engagement, and community investment. Oh, and Bonnie Wetter. Sorry, I just saw you, Bonnie. Also see Kurt. These investments are not separate efforts. They're synchronized movements towards one goal: a thriving Rock County. Strong early learning builds strong schools. Strong schools build a strong workforce. A strong workforce builds a thriving community. You don't have to be an educator to make a difference. Parents, business owners, city leaders, and residents, we all have a part in building our early learning community. Every action, big or small, contributes to the culture where children and families thrive. I want to leave you with this question. If you close your eyes for a moment, imagine Beloit in 10 years from now. What about 20 years from now? What do you hope it looks like? What if our schools were filled with children who entered confident, curious, and ready to learn, ready to succeed? What if every employer had a pipeline of skilled, passionate young adults ready to start life strong? Thank you so much for taking the time today to learn more about early learning. Together, we're building the foundation for a community where every child has the opportunity to